Record. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining. So as folks continue to pour in, I'll just go over some quick housekeeping rules as usual. And first, we're asking all attendees to remain on mute throughout the discussion. However, we do want your input and insight, so please feel free to share your thoughts and your comments in the chat. I also want to make mention that this session is being recorded, and that's indicated in your top left corner. My name is Kyle, and I serve as Director of Culture and Community Engagement here at the District's DEI office, and I have the pleasure of moderating this panel discussion today. So with that, I want to welcome you all to the Equity in Practice series, which is a collection of community learning opportunities hosted by the school district's Office of DEI in collaboration with district staff, community advocates, and community-based organizations that are focused on equity, cultural awareness, and social justice. I want to wish everyone a happy Women's History Month. And as March is Women's History, it's the perfect time to honor and reflect on the incredible contributions of women throughout history. This month gives us an opportunity to celebrate the achievements, resilience, and the impact of women in all areas of society. So it's a time to recognize a lot of great trailblazers who have paved the way for future generations and have been advocates for gender equality and gender equity. So without further ado, I want to introduce our panelists. So first we'll start with our guest, Brianna Pendleton-Wise. Brianna is responsible for establishing and executing school and community partnerships to support and sustain growth model for Girls Inc. programs across Philadelphia and Camden County, New Jersey. Additionally, she is a part of the local and national Girls Inc. training teams and spearheads the agency's growing internship program, which hosts approximately 70 college interns per year. Brianna has been with Girls Inc. since 2016 and is currently is the school and community relations manager. She has a BS in biology and psychology from Temple University. Thanks so much for joining us, Brianna. So next we have Dr. Erdem. Dr. Ebru Erdem is a director of the Office of Research and Evaluation and has been with the district for 7 years. She's originally from Turkey, and she has a master's degree from the University of Iowa and a PhD from Stanford University, both in political science. Before SDP, she was an assistant professor of political science at the University of California, Riverside, focusing on identity politics, gender equality, in developing countries. Thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Erdem. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Next, we have Principal Awilda Balbina. Awilda, I hope I pronounced that correctly. My apologies if I didn't. Thank you. Awilda is a dedicated veteran, mother, Latina, and recently named Lindback Award winner. So congrats on that. She has served as a principal for Gloria Caceres Elementary for 15 years. She is a passionate advocate and representation for equity, and she champions bilingual education and has successfully created a diverse and inclusive school environment. Her commitment to student success and community engagement is evident in her initiatives like the dual language program, weekly parent town halls, and monthly parent second cups of coffee. Thank you so much for joining us, Awilda. Really appreciate it. So next we have Amani Crenshaw. Amani is a passionate public health professional, entrepreneur, and advocate for community well-being. She serves as a project manager for the soon-to-be implemented Handle with Care program, fostering trauma-informed support for children in Philadelphia's 22nd district. As the founder of Delicate Infusions Hair Care, she merges her love for holistic wellness and cultural hair heritage into high-quality, nourishing hair products. Dedicated to Black women's and children's education and health, she also serves as the treasurer and an active member of the National Alumni Association at Spelman College. She is committed to advocacy, education, entrepreneurship, and reflects her mission to uplift and empower communities. Thanks so much, Amani, for joining us. And finally, we have Catlin Brandon. Catlin is a dedicated educator and instructional coach based in Philadelphia. She holds a robust academic background, including principal certification from Temple University, a master's degree in education and policy from the University of Penn, and a bachelor's in secondary education from Temple University. Her certifications are extensive. In addition to her recent principal certification, she also holds a Pennsylvania state level certification in secondary education, a reading certification for grades K through 12, and a middle school social studies certificate. Her journey spans over a decade with significant roles in Philadelphia School District and educational institutions. As an instructional coach with the Office of Professional Learning, she supports mathematics teachers through coaching cycles, professional development, and instructional leadership collaboration. Her innovative initiatives such as the annual Math Festival, number recognition fashion show, and 100 Days of Math Games Challenge highlight her commitment to enhancing student engagement and learning outcomes. Thank you so much for joining us, Catlin. All right, so we can get started with the conversation. I'll jump right in. I'm going to direct this first question to Imani. So Imani, how do you define gender equity, and why is it crucial in spaces such as education and society as a whole?
Thank you, Kyle. Hi, everybody. First of all, happy Women's History Month, happy International Women's History Month. So I'm excited to just get started. How do I define gender equity? So gender equity is fairness and opportunity, support, resources across all genders, all races, focus on dismantling systemic barriers, focusing on dismantling micro and macro aggressions that continue to perpetuate a lot of our, social issues, a lot of our historically created issues today. And so true gender equity is acknowledging these disparities as reality and actively working to remove them.
Nice. Thank you for that, Imani. I want to go to Catlin on this as well. Do you have any thoughts on this particular question?
I do. Thanks, Kyle. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be in a room full of educators that are as passionate as you are at spending a lunch period with us. Thank you. So yeah, just to add on to what Imani was saying, gender equity is not just the fair treatment of others. It's really providing access and opportunities for all genders, recognizing that we all have diverse challenges. Some are greater than others, some are seen, some are unseen, and we have to actively seek ways to be inclusive in every facet of our lives and institutions. So within education, I think it's really crucial because it ensures everyone has at least one opportunity or several opportunities to fully participate and fully thrive, free from bias or those barriers I mentioned. And it really fosters an inclusive environment where we can promote diverse perspectives, right? And we need that in this time more than ever. That would empower everyone, dismantling systems that historically do not.
I appreciate that, Catlin. All great points. I heard thrive, and I heard thrive, and I heard like opportunity. And so with this next question, I think I want to go to Brianna on this. I think it ties into how someone can thrive, or how a woman can thrive and get opportunity. And it's mostly around mentorship. So I say, how important, Brianna, is mentorship in shaping the careers of women? And how does mentorship aid personal growth?
Thanks, Kyle. I'll also just echo, like everybody else, so grateful to be here and spend this hour with you all. So how important is mentorship for girls and women? I mean, it's mission critical, right? It might be one of the most important things that we can offer to girls, and as one in grade school, but also as they're continuing through high school, post-secondary, and into their careers. Everyone needs someone in their corner, right? And who is a guide and who is just grounded in the beliefs that girls are capable of absolutely anything. So they need access to role models. They need career exploration opportunities, both inside and outside the classroom, right? It takes coaching, it takes networking, and ultimately just helping them lift these limiting beliefs that say that they can't or that say that they shouldn't. And again, it's cliche as it sounds, like it does take a village, right? And I just think that every woman, every girl needs somebody in their back corner. Thanks, Scott.
Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Coaching, networking, all great points. Catlin, I want to pose that question to you as well. So how important is mentorship in shaping the careers of women and girls, and how does it aid their personal growth? You have any thoughts on that one?
Yes, thanks. Brianna, I think it is mission critical. I think that's really should be a headline, right? Mentorship provides not just the structured situation where it's a one-off. It's sustained. It's a process of being in that corner, not just today, but for a long time, maybe forever, beyond what you actually need me for. And it's developing those professional skills that are required to effectively perform whatever responsibilities that may be thrown at us, right? It's a relationship. And when it's successful, it really fosters self-reflection, personal, professional growth that really can stretch into every facet of our lives as we continue to grow. So I love what Brianna said. I'm adding on if that's okay.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate that. So this next question, I want to go to Awilda if I can, and then I'll follow up with Dr. Erdem with this question, but I'll start with Awilda. So what advice would you give, Awilda, to women looking to pursue leadership roles in their careers?
Really good question. And thank you everyone for logging in this afternoon. I am a principal of an elementary school in Kensington. And one thing that I find very valuable as a Latina is that I know my history. I know my worth. And I challenge those, who are, making me feel or trying to make me feel less than. So for me, it's important to know your history. It's important to know your worth. I think you have to have a clear vision of what it is, you stand for. I make a statement often where, as a school principal, I stand on this like 12 by 12 square, and I know where my feet are planted. And if anything is coming at me, and as a school principal, there's a lot of things coming at me, I always want to make sure that I've got good footing, strong footing before I go and make a decision. And it's always got to be grounded in your worth. What is it that you believe in? And I wrote something down so I don't forget to say this. Never underestimate your capabilities. And here's the thing, you're going to stumble. Like you're not free of stumbling. So you will stumble, and take that experience as necessary, right? It's a necessary experience. And I just always say, just straighten your crown a little bit, get your bearings, and remind yourself that you are on that right path, right? Because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. So that and mentor, having a mentor. So I'm right in there with Kat and with Brianna. You have to seek mentors in this leadership role.
Thank you so much, Awilda. All great points. I want to go to Dr. Erdem. Do you have any thoughts on this particular question?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for organizing this panel. I think it is really timely in this environment. I think I'm going to echo what Principal Balbuena said. Having confidence in yourself, do not self-doubt. I think everybody here has heard the concept of imposter syndrome. Do not fall for that. As women, do not doubt your capabilities. You're not an imposter. Wherever you are, you have earned to be there. So believe in yourself at first. And then again, going with the same themes, we have to recognize what we are up against. In this case, patriarchy is everywhere. People in power do not generally give up power willingly. So if you think about it, any rights movements, women's rights included, has been a struggle. Any rights that have been gained in history, again, referring to history here, it is a result of a struggle, and women now, our girls, are now part of this struggle, and they are now a link in this chain long chain. So we have to recognize where we are and kind of keep the chain strong. But as we talk about, rights movements, we have to also recognize that we do have allies. We do have men who understand the value of women in the workspace, and so we have to, embrace them and join them into our work and in our struggles. And then when we are in leadership positions, I think this is very important for women who are in the leadership positions. We have to use the power that we have achieved as a part of our position to be the ally. We have to lift up women. We have to give credit where it's due. If we see a woman's work or ideas being appropriated, we have to say, no, just give credit where it's due. And as a part of that also, there are a lot of emotional labor that falls disproportionately on women in the workplace. As women who are in the leadership queue, as they pursue these leadership positions, they have to realize that emotional labor may be falling more on them as women. There may be gender tasks that would be expected of them. You have to do what you have to do as a part of your job, but understand that this is happening, acknowledge that this is happening, and maybe ask for credit or have this acknowledged by the people who are your supervisors. So don't say, oh, I'm a woman, I have to do this, or I'm a woman, this is expected of me. Okay, fine, you're expected to do these things as a woman, but get your credit. And lastly, take care of your health. Women, this is so important. Without a sound body and sound mind, you cannot really have a successful work life. So I would just have women taking care of themselves. Thanks.
Great point. Great point. Yeah, that was great points. I want to go to our next question, and I want to start with you, Brianna, if I may. I know you do a lot of work with young girls, so this would be centered around them. What strategies, excuse me, what strategies can educators and school leaders and community advocates in general implement to empower young girls academically and socially?
Great question. So I think at the end of the day, we want to just make sure that we're creating spaces where our girls are feeling confident, they're resilient, and they just have a sense of belonging in no matter what room they're stepping into. And I think one of the biggest strategies that we've seen, which I tip my hat off to so many of you all for implementing this within schools, is really focusing on that growth mindset. Right? Encouraging persistence, celebrating the process, and recognizing like, it's not easy, right? I think so much we focus on the end goal. How are we going to get there is also equally as important. And even when things go wrong, right? Like, let's celebrate that too, and let's learn from that. And I think that's really important to get girls to rally behind. It's not always just about that end result. I think one of the other biggest strategies, and I'll keep saying mentorship, 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 they need strong female role models. If they can see it, they can believe it, and then they're just gonna go for it, right? Continue introducing them to females within history, but bring in so many of the incredible women across this city, across the state, borrow from New Jersey or Delaware, right? Like bring in, there's just so much amazing people here that we need to make sure that they're available to these girls, right? Show them that they can go be an astrophysicist and a CEO and a marketing VP, manage a construction site, right? Like make sure that they know that the sky is the limit. And then I think the last thing is start a mentorship program at your school, right? Between your staff, between your girls. And if y'all don't have the capability for it, call me at Girls Inc., right? We'll run it for you.
Nice. I appreciate that. Wilda, do you have any thoughts on that particular question as well?
Brianna hit a lot of the points I was going to recommend as well. So I'm going to split off and say the social emotional piece. I really rely on our counselors to pull small groups. And the girls that aren't speaking up in the classroom, we see them, right? One of the mottos that we have here at Gloria Cáceres is we see you, you matter, you belong. And if I'm seeing you and I'm not seeing you participating, I'm going to start asking questions to the counselor like, hey, let's pull a small group. Let's give the space, a safe space for girls to talk. Yeah, I think creating those safe spaces. But then when I'm speaking academically now as a school principal, I am holding all of our teachers accountable for ensuring that whatever it is that they are required to present, that they are allowing space for discourse, that children are able to ask each other questions in a safe environment. It's one of the things that our new curriculum insists, demands. Our new ELA curriculum, there's a lot of student-to-student discourse that's required throughout pretty much all of the modules, all of the everything. So I will not duplicate what Brianna said, because it's all that, and I just made that little distinction for the social here at the school, as well as academic, and holding the teachers accountable for creating those safe spaces.
Nice, nice. Thank you for that, Awilda. I want to move to our next question. And women are known to hold many hats as leaders within their communities, their families, and in the workspaces. So I want to go back to you, Awilda, if I may. What advice would you give on how to balance professional success with personal well-being, and what strategies have worked for you?
I had to take a deep breath. This is probably the hardest thing to do. And I think we've all touched on it, right? There are these other expectations that sort of fall on women and not so much the men. Yeah, so for me, it's important. Oh my goodness, it's so important that when I leave here, that I leave it here. But as a school principal, I get called, it's after hours, it's over the weekend. So I have to make sure that I'm giving, how should I say this? Having some boundaries. So after 7 o'clock, unless there's a 911 emergency, I'm going to have to wait till the next day to answer that call. Another thing I say here a lot, and I've been here for 15 years, I've said a lot of different things. If you're not on fire, you're not bleeding out, and you're not unconscious, it can wait. It can wait. And those are weird. It's a weird boundary I set, but it works for me. So when a teacher comes rushing into my office, this, that, or the other, and I'm like, okay, hold on, just get your breath, and is this, that, or the other thing happening? And the answer is no, then I'll say, let's both of us take a break. So it's really setting those boundaries and not responding to those knee-jerk, those situations where you might make a knee-jerk decision that's not necessarily a good thing. So really, truly setting those boundaries is perhaps, I think, the first thing I do. I have an amazing husband who's very supportive. I have an 11-year-old son who's amazing. My mother has Alzheimer's and she lives with us. So juggling both has been a lot. And we rescued a dog in November, as if I needed one more thing. But that dog has been my therapy. I say she, Luna sits on my lap and we both calm down together. So I'm recommending a pet.
Nice.
So, yeah, so set those boundaries.
No, very great advice. I really appreciate that. I want to go to Dr. Erdem on this question as well. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Balancing all those things, the juggling that never ends, I think it is going to be the thing that women have to do, even if we have a more equitable society. I don't think that's gonna go away. So I think for me personally, I keep telling myself affirmations, and these are about generally acknowledging the invisible labor that I do, the emotional labor that I do. If nobody else acknowledges it, I acknowledge it to myself and pat myself on the back. Um, uh, and I am increasingly seeing and believing that caretaking is not a feminine thing. We're just socialized into it. You know, from the younger ages, this is how we're expected to be, and then we fulfill those roles. And I am trying to share this work more equally in the family or in the workspace, just asking men not to skirt the responsibilities. You are capable. You can do this too. And I think recognizing that a successful career really requires a successful personal life. And kudos to Principal Balbuena, who has a really supportive husband, as I hear. You know, for young girls, I would say, you know, have yourself a feminist partner. That's the thing that's going to make life easiest for you. So another thing that goes with this is, in my academic life and also in my personal life as a member of the society, what I'm realizing more and more, and this is an experience and observation that I have had for my home country, Turkey, and also for the United States, although they are very different cultures. Family values and misogyny are conflated so badly in both cultures. Um, there are things that are expected of you as a woman. You know, you have to do these as a mother, as a daughter, as a wife. But those things are generally restricting your space and restricting you from fulfilling your potential. I keep trying to, you know, separate those things out and kind of find my own way. And I had to do it throughout my life, sometimes against my father, sometimes in the family. Um, I want to tell all the girls that you are a woman before you're a mother, before you're a wife, before you're a daughter, before you're a sister. You have a responsibility to yourself in having your path and drawing your boundaries before anything else that is pushed into your way. And then part of it is breaking the conditioning. Like, again, we are conditioned as girls from very young ages. You can show your respect for your elders, for your community, but you still have to stand your ground. This is what I want for myself. This doesn't mean that I'm disrespecting you, just that I have my space and what I want for myself, and that comes before my other responsibilities that are expected from me. I think my professional life and personal life balance has been like walking that line, the thin line between those, and it is something that all women will have to learn how to do.
Great advice. Thank you for that. Dr. Erdman, I want to come back to you on this particular question, and I want to potentially see if I could loop Amani into this question as well. How does gender biases, whether that be in STEM fields, sports, leadership roles, how does these biases impact women and young girls, and how can we collectively combat them?
Yeah, this is, I mean, I could talk for 5 more hours on this issue because it is everywhere, it is all the time. Um, I think I had a little story to tell you about some experience in Uzbekistan, but I'm gonna skip over it. I'm just gonna come to the, you know, gist of that story, which is gender biases. They restrict dreams, efforts, choices, aspirations, options that the girls might have. It curbs their potential. Society and men repeating, you can't, and it was mentioned before, it just takes a toll. You start, you know, believing those things yourself, and you start curbing yourself. So that is the biggest harm that is done by these biases. And I hate to see it. This is very difficult to observe, and you observe it in daily life. I think to combat these biases, firstly, we have to educate our boys. As mothers, as teachers, as members of the community, we have to I think we have to be aware of the extreme misogyny and the normalization of emotional and physical violence against women in the materials that these young boys are exposed to. It is frightening. I have a young daughter myself, and I'm scared for the generation. We have to teach them about respect, consent, and also acknowledgement of this invisible emotional work, the things that I have been talking about. And boys and men need to learn not to take the woman in their lives for granted. So that's one part of the story. And the other part of the story is, again, focusing on the girls themselves, combating the biases. We have to teach them to acknowledge and learn about the internalized patriarchy, internalized misogyny that they have. Like, we all have it. We cannot deny it. We do have it. Whether we are aware of it or not is a different story. So we have to make the girls aware. We have to show these girls how they can recognize their potential. They have to think critically when they are making their choices about professional or personal lives. We have to show them that their experiences as women in society is also a window to understand and empathize with other disadvantaged groups, like people of color. I am, as you can see, a white presenting person. People conceive me as white until I open my mouth and start talking. And for me, my experience as a woman has been really critical in understanding the struggles and the place in life and wishes of people of color. I experienced microaggressions as a woman, and I understand like the microaggressions that a Black person could experience and complain. I don't have that experience, but I can empathize with that. And as a woman, I get to be in certain spaces where I'm uncomfortable. I understand how a person of color might experience that kind of discomfort in other spaces. So when these connections are made, I think there will be more learning and more solidarity. It goes both ways. I think that kind of solidarity is important to establish in combating biases against women.
Thank you for that. And I agree. Solidarity is definitely key. Amani, do you have any thoughts on this particular question?
Oh, I have so many thoughts. She just covered so much, and I really appreciate that. Just while I was listening to that, I was continuously thinking about safety and just how safety is something that's always in question, especially as a woman, especially as a Black woman. You know, when she brought up, women of color, I think of that and how, misogyny or be feeling safe to speak your mind, feeling safe to tell the truth. And, when you're in your workspace, but then when you're even going to the gym, something as simple as that, how late you're willing to stay, how late you're willing to be outside because of who you are and because of how you present. It impacts you in so many levels. We have what we call the socio-ecological model, and that is just the layers in which you can be experiencing violence or being in unsafe spaces from an individual level, from a community level, policy level, right? There are policies actively trying to harm women and actively trying to harm Black women, societal level. And it's just I just kept thinking about that the entire time. And while all of these things are happening, right, I think the strongest and the thing that we can create strength in, because it can be depressing, right? The work can be depressing, can be very heavy. Community is like a really big to me. finding community within, you know, within spaces I'm in, within the women that I'm able to, you know, pour myself into, and they can do the same with me. What's it called? A bartering system, that kind of thing, where we are able to share resources, whether that's knowledge, nuggets of knowledge, or, you know, it's actual tangible assets. And I just wanted to lastly say, for young girls and young women, something that's important as well. I know it's not something we're always thinking about, but financial literacy is really important, and it can change your life throughout your entire life. Right now, we know that in the U.S. by 2030, women in the U.S. are expected to control more than 30 trillion of investable assets. Right, that's the plan, right? That's what's expected to happen. Financial literacy is so important for young girls about how they're going to manage their funds, and how they're going to manage their life and their careers, how they can plan to be safe when they're older, you know. So yeah, I was just thinking about all of these things. And did I answer your question? I kind of forgot the
Yes.
question.
Yeah, no, a lot of good information. I really appreciate it for sure. Yep. Yeah, thank you both for that. I'm going to move to Catlin for this question. This is going to be centered around advocacy, Catlin. Can you outline why advocating for women's issues is essential to progressing forward, not just as a district, but as a community at large?
I can really see the coherence in your questioning, Kyle, as it directly aligns to what Amani and Dr. Erdem were just saying. You know, advocating for women's rights is absolutely essential for progressing as a school district and as a Philadelphia community at large. You know, it aligns directly with what the school district of Philadelphia has explicitly and publicly committed to as far as equity in education and excellence, right? So, there's a lot of policies that support our work in this area. Addressing gender disparities in earnest supports Anchor Goal 3 by ensuring diverse leadership and teaching staff, as you can see just from the collective here on this call. You know, it fosters inclusive, and I heard Amani say this a lot, supportive, safe spaces, right, throughout the district, aligning with our Guardrail 1, right, where all students and staff are feeling valued and empowered in those district spaces. And that's a huge uplift, especially when we have such a big geographic space with such diversity even within our own district as far as how our buildings are run, right? And so when we do see the inequities taking place, naming those and having the policies at hand to support our work in that is essential as well. So advocacy drives this systemic change that is required in breaking down these barriers that we've been talking about, that Dr. Erdem has eloquently spoken to, you know, that really limit our potential as individuals, but also as a gender as a whole. It really creates opportunities, right? And that's what we need. We need equitable opportunities where we can enhance our overall well-being, right? So it's a commitment to gender equity that advances our collective growth, right? And I also feel I would be remiss if I didn't say, you know, within our national climate, where we're witnessing the continual, intentional dismantling of DEI programs, right? We have this crucial role to play as such a large educational institution in this national framework of educational institutions, right? We're a large city district, right? So we can stand on our ideals as a plinth that is a foundational base only strengthened by our collective power, right? Like we have power in the collective. We have power through mentorship, right, Brianna? When somebody's in our corner, we've got that power. We're here right now as individuals, but we're as a collective. We're here on a call where we're creating connections and networks, and we can build off of that power. So we must be this beacon of light as an example of strength and advocacy for what is right, even if we are the only ones standing in that light.
Thank you so much for
Can
that.
I briefly add one thing to
Yes,
the safety
please.
issue? Kathleen, thank you for that. I think it was much needed. But the issue that Imani and Kathleen raised about safety, I think it is not a coincidence that misogyny is a common trait in the people who engage in mass shootings. You know, we are concerned about school shootings. We have all these trainings. Kids do the drills and everything. Whenever these happen, sadly, there is always some kind of misogyny in the thought process of these people. And then the far-right white supremacist ideologies, the violent strands, there's always misogyny somewhere lurking beneath. So I think just advocating for women's issues and gender equity is important at a societal level to kind of reduce the amount of violence in society. I'm just going to finish with that.
No, amazing point. I appreciate that. For this next question, I want to go to Amani. And Amani, I know we've talked about your background in public health, so I think this is a suitable question. How can schools incorporate discussions about women's health, women and young girls' health, their physical health, their mental health, and support young women and girls holistically? What do you think about that?
I love that. And in so many ways, you know, we can all do this, but I have like 3 to 4 main ways. I mentioned one earlier, which was financial literacy. And that's a way to protect them in a way, in a physical and also, you know, mental way, but also just destigmatizing things, right? So period poverty is real. This is something that I just was at an event and we talked about it there for women's health, women's maternal and maternal health. And that was, you know, something that we know that young girls are struggling with globally. And unfortunately here in the US, one of the richest countries in the world, right? And it's still an issue. The move also for more trauma-informed care, I think that's important from our teachers, you know, especially here in Philly. We know that I hear it all the time, you know, especially in here. There's gun violence. We know that this is happening across the entire city. It's not just we're an urban area. There's genuine, you know, issues happening in regards to poverty, in regards to access to basic resources. And then on top of that, you know, communal violence that can happen, right? And that is happening. And this is something that is impacting the very safety of our young women today. And so knowing this, and we just have to have a more trauma-informed lens when we're teaching. Well, I'm not a teacher, so when the teaching is happening, when you know you're seeing your students react certain ways because of you don't know what's happening outside the school, so that we're hoping to build that up through this program and make it go citywide. That's the goal. But you may not know everything that happened at home, but there are a lot of, you know, interpersonal violence and incidents that are happening. There are a lot of domestic disputes, and on top of that, you know, gun violence. And so like just that comprehensive way of supporting students as well as what else? Sorry. Oh, and again, back to the removing stigma. So I mentioned period poverty, but another thing is how we're doing reproductive health. I have a reproductive health background, and that's always going to be something that I bring up because there's so many young women and then women I know who I went to school with who didn't know that they were already experiencing health issues, things like PCOS and endometriosis when they were younger, because they didn't even understand that that was something that existed. And I know that there is a lot of, you know, regulation and policy, and then this goes back to us fighting for our rights to help each other. But we really genuinely need this information, and there some people just don't have someone at home who can teach that to them, or they don't understand that this is something that may be cyclical in their family, generational in their family, that's been impacting them generationally down because they're not going maybe not to the doctor, or they're not doing, you know, in regards to it's not common, you know, to go talk doctor and talk about these kind of things. So just kind of putting that nugget in your brain, like, hey, besides, you know, a regular uh, cycle, you may also have these, and this is why. So I think that those are some of the ways, and of course, big on mentorship. really, really big on that. Like I'm glad you guys are like very much emphasizing that. And I just went to, so I'm sure you all know you're brilliant, but I just went to a global health conference for the UN for a Women's Foundation, and that was the main thing. Young women's mentorship. That's everyone's talking about that, and it's important. I would have loved to have had when I was younger more public speaking and debating as an opportunity to take those types of trainings, or not necessarily a course, but that kind of support instead of later in life, because you're gonna need it always. So I'm just gonna leave it there. I think I
All
covered
right,
most
thank
there.
you, Amani. That all great information. I appreciate it. So we have about 15 minutes left. We have a few more questions. I want to direct this next question to Awilda, if I may. And from the principal lens, how can schools foster an environment where women and girls feel safe, but not only safe, but confident to use their voices in those spaces? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Wow. Yes, Imani, you're right on point regarding women's health. I just want to touch base with you afterwards because I know someone who could really benefit with this partnership. She's a social worker here, and we were talking about reproductive health just yesterday. And I expressed my own experience, and it's a thing. Black and brown women they don't get the best health care, even with really good insurance. So just wanted to put a little bow on that. I want to make sure I touch base with you. But the question is, how does a school, or from a school leader perspective, how can we create these safe spaces for girls? Wow. There's a lot that we do here at Gloria Cáceres. Trauma-informed instruction is on that top of that list. I mentioned earlier, and I know some people came on afterwards, I really pride myself on this affirmation that we see you matter and you belong. And I say that to all of my girls and boys, or however it is they identify. It really is a motto. And with that, we have 2 school counselors. Um, and I think I jumped too far ahead. Let me come back. The school district has three surveys that go out to children. It's called the Well-Being Student Survey. And we at this school tear into this report. This is what it looks like, and I've got notes and circled this and concerns about that and what we're going to do about that. So our data comes out male, female, right? By gender. It spews out by grade. It also comes out Latino, Black, white. I'm trying to think of, do you have an IEP? Are you an L? Are you a multilingual learner? So I love that we can really drill down to this data that we have access to. And not just at Gloria Cáceres, district-wide, the peer-to-peer relationship data is always lower than all the other components, which the first one is adult-student relationships, peer-to-peer relationships, and then of course self-development. How well can they what's the word I'm looking for, calm, and cope with a situation. So that's the self-development. But as we dissect our peer-to-peer data, I really hone in on male, female. I hone in on what grade. And when I start to dissect it that way, we end up pulling focus groups because we want to know, what is it about that particular question or statement? Here are just some of the questions. Students from my school really tried to get to know me, right? That's broken down by grade, gender, ethnicity. So it really gives us insight to what our kids are experiencing. Another one, students from my school show me they care about me, right? So when girls' data is not great, we're pulling a girls group to discuss that. So that's something I'm really proud of that our MTSS Tier 1 meetings, we really dissect, we go deep. Another question is, students at my school say nice things to me. So I'm always looking, where do we need to go in and get our counselors and our social worker in there to help dissect what's really at the root of this. And I think I was going to share one more. Oh, students at my school are mean to me because of how I look, dress, talk, or act. So powerful things our students have to respond to, but from a school point of view, it's important I create a culture that allows them, boys and girls, right? Or the they, thems. I want, and we, by the way, I want to step back one more second and say, I believe we're the only school in Pennsylvania that flies a pride flag right under our US flag because we include everybody. And it's funny I bring that up because I have a parent concern who's very concerned about the pride flag. And not to be, I'm not trying to patronize anyone, but we fly that to indicate you belong here. Whatever your pronoun, whatever your gender, you belong here. And I want to call that parent back and give them that information. We fly it because I want everyone to know that you are safe here. And that's across the board. So creating those opportunities for girls in this particular discussion to really tell us how they're feeling. Our two counselors are spectacular. They really know our kids. They really dig in there and really get them to express themselves. Our social worker is phenomenal as well. Sometimes we end up referring children and families to her because of what the kids are saying and or experiencing. So from a school perspective, know that this principal is looking at data, has people on her team that really values the data and respects the voices of our girls and want to make sure that they are safe to express themselves. So I'll leave it at that.
100%. Thank you so much for that, Awilda. Really appreciate it. I want to highlight, we have about 8 more minutes. I have a few more questions. Let's see how good we can do. I want to go direct this next question to Brianna, if I can. Brianna, can you just share like your thoughts on how schools can best support young girls when it comes down to overcoming societal barriers? But not just societal barriers, but those stereotypes that are like related to gender.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to echo again, I'm just loving this conversation. I feel like it's challenging me, and I feel like so many of us on this call, to just imagine a world where girls didn't have to experience any of this, right? Like there are no limits. They can just express themselves freely and like truly be equal in the world. So I'm really just loving this today. I think it really just comes down to the people, you know, all of us as educators and community supporting these girls, the environment that we're creating for them, and then just exposing them to all that there can be so that these barriers and these stereotypes aren't affecting them. I think it really starts with promoting girls' leadership skills and their self-confidence, right? Encouraging them to self-reflect, to focus on their growth, support one another, right? And actually build sisterhood and community. Like they should feel empowered to take healthy risks, to try new things, to go out and shoot for the stars, right? I challenge you all, like plaster your walls with all of the powerful women that are out there and really make sure your girls know who they are, right? Like there's not just signage for the sake of there being signage, right? Like they should be able to walk through these classrooms and walk through hallways and be like, I know that's Malala and I know that's such and such, and they do all of these incredible things, right? So I think showing them people who have broken past all of these stereotypes is very important. I'd say, again, I think Awilda had mentioned this earlier, let them talk, right? Allow girls to have open dialogue, allow them to challenge these stereotypes themselves, right? And recognize inequity, let them be in these classrooms or in these small group spaces where they can tell you what barriers they're facing. Because us as adults, yes, we might recognize some things and they're going to tell us a whole slew of other issues that they're directly experiencing that we didn't know were things, right? And it's really just our job to listen and create that safe space for them so that they can navigate these challenges in spaces where they don't have those pressures of gender expectations, right? Just let them talk. And then the last thing I just want to, again, echo is just encouraging them to set these really high and ambitious goals that are driven in their own personal values and beliefs, not societies, not their parents, not whomever, right? That's really grounded within them. Show them any and all of the things, right? Like all of the opportunities that are available to them, so that they are flying far beyond any of these barriers and stereotypes, right? And this doesn't start, career exploration can never start too young. Started in kindergarten, right? Like we remember career day, have every single kindergartner have a career exploration career day and keep that going every single year. We know as educators, girls start losing interest in math by 3rd, 4th grade, right? Like keep it going. And ideally bring in women, right? We are here celebrating Women's History Month, bring in all the fantastic women across the city who are doing those things, and then really take the students out of the classroom and show them those careers in action. Yes, they love going to urban air and all of those other fancy things for field trips and all of that, but there's so many companies with fantastic women around our area, and will gladly open their doors. Call Comcast and be like, hey, my students want to come meet your VP or your CEO. They'll let you in, right? Making sure that, again, they're just seeing all that's available to them so that stereotypes and barriers don't even exist in their brains because they know could soar far beyond.
Amazing point, Brianna. I appreciate that. I'm gonna go to Amani. You have any thoughts on this particular question, Amani?
Dang it, Brianna, you covered everything. I love it. No, I was literally just want to echo what she said. I loved it with what she was saying with putting everything on the walls just for the kids to see that every day, things they can inspire to be, people they can inspire to be more like or better than if they feeling like that. And also I'll just add being serious about and supporting, like, no bullying, no harassment, like keeping that, structure as well, and so that people can feel safe, so that there is that safe space and safe environment. I also just something idea. I'm sure that some schools do this as well. I remember when my principal, she used to have assemblies for just about everything. So having those assemblies, promoting girls' confidence, promoting sisterhood, like she was saying, I would love to see that as well. So there, I think she pretty much got it.
Nice. Thank
Yeah.
you, Amani. So we have 3 minutes, but I'm gonna see if I can go to Catlin for our final question in the panel. And Catlin, the question is, what can students, teachers, and families in the school district do to honor and advance women's contributions in our community and society? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll be really concise. I was thinking about 4 things, and several of them were actually, all of them were already mentioned. So let's just sum them up. We got to educate and celebrate, right? This was just said. We need to integrate lessons on historical and contemporary women figures into our curriculum. And that's really hard with our current curriculum, with illustrative mathematics in particular, and I'm sure with EL in some areas. So we got to be intentional about that, y'all. We need to celebrate women-led initiatives and achievements outside of March every day. So I think this speaks to what Brianna was speaking about. Our inclusive environments, we got to foster positive, inclusive classrooms on the regular. We got to engage our families, as Wilda was speaking to. We really need to establish this ongoing two-way communication. That's really just essential because we're all stakeholders here in the success of our kids. And then finally, advocating for equity. We need to be activists. We need to have action steps in our daily lives that actively dismantle these barriers we've been discussing all day.
Nice. Thank you, Catlin, for that. And I just want to take opportunity just to thank all of our panelists today. I learned a lot, and I hate that these conversations had to end sometimes, but it's such amazing. I learned a great deal. So I want to thank you all for participating. We really appreciate it. And also want to thank everyone for taking time out on their lunchtime to stop by and join and hear this conversation. We'll be back at it. This is a monthly session. For those who aren't able to make it, if you know someone who would like this material and want to hear a little bit more, we post this on our DEI YouTube page. So I'll be sure to upload that on YouTube and share it out with all those who register for this discussion. So you'll look for that in the coming days. But thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a great day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.